On March 11, 2011, at 2:46 p.m. local time, the northeastern coast of Japan experienced one of the most powerful earthquakes ever recorded. Measuring 9.0 on the Richter scale, it struck off the coast of the Tohoku region, with its epicenter located approximately 70 kilometers east of the Oshika Peninsula. This seismic event was the most powerful earthquake in Japan's recorded history and the fourth most powerful in the world since modern seismography began. The earthquake was caused by the subduction of the Pacific Plate beneath the North American Plate along the Japan Trench. Over centuries, immense tectonic stress had built up along this fault line. When it finally ruptured, the seabed shifted dramatically, displacing massive volumes of water and setting off a catastrophic chain of events. Within minutes, the Japanese Meteorological Agency issued tsunami warnings along much of the country's Pacific coast. Sirens blared, television and radio broadcasts were interrupted, and mobile alerts urged residents to flee to higher ground. But in many coastal towns, the earthquake's shaking had already destroyed roads, bridges, and communication systems, making evacuation even more difficult. The first tsunami waves struck within 30 minutes of the quake. In some places, such as Miyako in Iwate Prefecture, the water surged to heights of over 40 meters. Entire towns were swallowed in moments. Cars, homes, fishing boats, and debris of every kind were swept inland, turning the water into a churning torrent of destruction. In the city of Sendai, located about 130 kilometers from the epicenter, waves traveled as far as 10 kilometers inland, leaving behind a wasteland of mud, debris, and shattered buildings. Over 400 kilometers of coastline were devastated. Small fishing villages that had stood for centuries were obliterated. The sheer force of the water uprooted trees, tore apart railways, and destroyed sea walls that had been designed to withstand strong tsunamis. In the port city of Kesanuma, fires broke out among the debris, fueled by ruptured gas lines and oil storage tanks, creating a nightmarish combination of flood and fire. The human toll was staggering. In the days and weeks that followed, the official death toll climbed past 15,000, with thousands more injured or missing. Entire families were wiped out. Elderly residents, unable to flee quickly, were among the most vulnerable. Rescue teams from across Japan and around the world arrived to search for survivors, but the scale of the disaster and the freezing March temperatures made their work almost impossible. As the nation reeled from the immediate destruction, a secondary crisis began to unfold: the Fukushima Daiichi nuclear power plant disaster. Located in Fukushima Prefecture, about 220 kilometers northeast of Tokyo, the plant's reactors automatically shut down when the earthquake struck. But the massive tsunami soon followed, overwhelming the plant's seawall and flooding backup diesel generators that powered the cooling systems. Without cooling, 3 of the plant's 6 reactors overheated, leading to partial meltdowns, hydrogen explosions, and the release of radioactive material into the environment. The Fukushima nuclear crisis forced the evacuation of over 150,000 people from the surrounding areas. Some fled with only the clothes on their backs, leaving homes, pets, and possessions behind. Entire communities were abandoned, and the exclusion zone around the plant remains largely off-limits to this day. In the aftermath, Japan faced an immense humanitarian crisis. Relief efforts were complicated by the scale of the destruction and the harsh winter weather. Tens of thousands of survivors were housed in temporary shelters. Schools, gymnasiums, and community centers. Food, clean water, and medical supplies were scarce in the hardest-hit areas. Psychological trauma was widespread, with many survivors struggling with grief, loss, and survivor's guilt. The disaster also exposed vulnerabilities in Japan's disaster preparedness systems. Although the country had some of the most advanced earthquake and tsunami warning systems in the world, the sheer size of the 2011 event overwhelmed these measures. Seawalls were not high enough in some areas, evacuation routes were damaged, and many people underestimated the tsunami's speed and power. Economically, the impact was massive. Infrastructure damage alone was estimated at over $200 billion, making it the costliest natural disaster in history. The shutdown of the Fukushima plant led to nationwide energy shortages, forcing Japan to rely more heavily on imported fossil fuels. Fishing and agriculture in the affected regions suffered long-term losses, especially in areas contaminated by radiation. Yet, amid the devastation, stories of resilience emerged. Survivors worked together to clear debris and rebuild their communities. Volunteers from across Japan and abroad poured in to help. International aid arrived quickly, with dozens of countries sending rescue teams, supplies, and financial assistance. Japan's self-defense forces mobilized in one of the largest deployments in the nation's history, delivering aid and assisting in recovery efforts. The disaster also sparked global debates on nuclear safety. Countries such as Germany and Switzerland accelerated plans to phase out nuclear power, while Japan itself dramatically reduced its reliance on nuclear energy in the years following. Stricter safety regulations were implemented, and new earthquake and tsunami-resistant infrastructure projects were launched across the country. Over the following decade, Japan undertook an enormous reconstruction effort. Entire towns were rebuilt on higher ground. New seawalls, in some cases over 12 meters tall, were constructed along vulnerable stretches of coastline. Disaster drills became even more deeply embedded in Japanese society, with renewed emphasis on rapid evacuation and public awareness. Culturally, the events of March 11, 2011 became a defining moment for the nation, referred to simply as 3/11 in Japan. Memorials and museums were established to honor the victims and to educate future generations about the importance of disaster preparedness. Annual ceremonies are held in affected towns, where survivors and relatives of victims gather to offer prayers and remember those lost. But for many, recovery has been as much an emotional journey as a physical one. The trauma of that day lingers in the memories of those who experienced it. Some survivors chose to return and rebuild, while others relocated permanently, unable to face the place where they lost so much. The exclusion zone around Fukushima remains a stark reminder of the nuclear disaster's long-lasting consequences. Today, the 2011 Japanese earthquake and tsunami stands as one of the most powerful reminders of nature, force and humanity, vulnerability. It also demonstrates the importance of preparedness, resilience, and international cooperation in the face of catastrophe. The lessons learned from that day continue to shape Japan's policies, infrastructure, and culture, ensuring that the memory of 3/11 remains not only a tragedy, but also a call to action for the future.